This is Christ Center Gamer's video review of the Switch RCMloader. Now, before we get started, just so you know, yes, these are switch hacking tools. We did review the SX Pro, which is what this is, a little over a year ago. As I said in that review, you can do things that are morally reprehensible with these devices, but you can also do really cool stuff too. Like if you really want to run Linux on your Switch, you can. So there you go. There's all kinds of cool things you can do with it. To start with, let's just compare the two devices. So this is the original SX Pro. It's very small, right? But this is actually part of the packaging. And there's a reason I kept this. It's because there's no other way to keep it without losing it. If you have a larger object, you're less likely to lose it. So you got two pieces that will perform perfectly, but them being so small, it's so easy to lose. This is just a disaster waiting to happen. The RCMloader includes this nice case and everything you need inside. So we've got a micro USB cable, which is used primarily to charge the device, but also to transfer data to it, which I'll explain in a few minutes. And then the device itself, now it's got this USB-C port saver, which you don't really need, but it's kind of nice to keep and it's easy to store in here, so why not keep it, right? But also this part, which you can see here, is built in. It's got its own slot, right? Which is really easy, convenient. It's one thing that is together. And hey, it looks like a Switch. And the colors even match. Look at that. This one has a button on the top, which lets you choose the modes, which I'll explain more of in a minute. And even though it's not quite as small as this guy here, it's certainly quite functional as well. So, all right, well, first, let me explain how these work. So, early Switches, those made before June of 2018, that was when the bug that was discovered by hackers was made public. And Nintendo, all future Switches made after that date cannot be hacked using this method. I think they call it the Fusee-Goulet method or something like that. I don't know. It's a funky name. But regardless, so the trick of this method is actually setting the Switch in called RCM mode. So what you do is, let's see, this guy is probably already on, right? He is already on. So we're going to go ahead and turn this switch off. You hold down the power button. Okay, power options, turn it off. You have to do this from power off. There's no way to take advantage of any of the homebrew while it's, if you don't start with it powered off. All right, so then you take off this controller. It has to be the right controller. And then you can use either one of these. They both do the same thing. So I'm going to use this guy here since this guy we're testing out. And then you stick this in, slide all the way till it stops. You put this in the bottom. And then you press and hold the plus and the power button. So you press the easiest way to do it is to press the plus just a quarter of a second before the power button. So you just press it and hold it. And hold them both. Till you see that flashing, you know it works. Now, because I already have the software for this, I decided to use that payload. But as you can see, this is not Nintendo's software. You can boot the custom firmware. We do not have a license because, unfortunately, SX OS is not free if you don't have an SX Pro to go with it. But I just wanted to show you that it does work. And there are many things that this software lets you do that you can't do on Nintendo's software that they don't really like. That's another discussion entirely. But just to prove that it worked, I will show you this. As soon as it boots up, I'll prove to you that it worked. So I'll go here and then open the album and it goes to some funky new thing. So there's your proof. Now you no longer need to leave this in and you no longer need to leave this in. You can actually put it to sleep and treat it just like a normal Switch. Of course you're in danger of bans because that's how Nintendo rolls. So you have to be careful about that. But there you go, that's proof that it does work. Now, without the license, so you can't do a whole lot. You can run a little homebrew, but that's about it. But as you can see, this is very convenient, just being able to be done with it. Stick it right back in here. If you want to protect the port a little bit, stick the port protector back on. It all fits in this fancy box, and life is good. Now, a couple things that are pretty interesting about this device. Now, this one is very, very sturdy. It's built very well. I have a feeling this is going to last a long, long time. It's just a very strong plastic. Hard plastic. It's not going anywhere. Now this one is a little bit flimsier. It's not really bad, but you can see it wiggles just a tiny bit. and you can feel it wiggle just a tiny bit. It's still pretty sturdy, but I wouldn't say it's as sturdy as this guy. And you can feel it's a little more hollow. See that? But it does work, as you saw. It does work just fine. Now, the interesting thing about this one is when you connect this here, just like so, and then you always have to get these up backwards wrong the first time. All right, so when you plug this into your computer, this actually has a battery. I think you can charge it. I think it charges the battery on here. But the main thing is that it actually has 2 megabytes. I know it sounds like a lot, not really, of storage on here. And why that's important is because this one has a built-in payload. That's for SXOS, so it only boots up to that menu that you saw, the red menu. This guy actually supports up to 6 payloads. And you switch them by holding down this button. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So when I plug this in, and I hold this down, it actually flashes a different color. See, now it's yellow. And that's one of the user custom ones. By default, it shoots with XKOS, which is a SXOS clone. And then it's got more colors. Now switch to blue, or cyan, or whatever it is. And then you hold it again, it switches to green. Then you hold it again, and switches to red. So I think it has up to 6, but I don't think we're using all 6 because only 4 actually have files in the directories, because that's on here. So I think it skips those other 2. One of them is Atmosphere's payload, I forget what it's called. And the other one is RayNX's payload. And then the third one, red, is SXOS. So 4 out of the 6 are currently loaded out of the box. But you can customize all of them. I mean, if there's an updated payload that you want to use, you can copy that right onto here. So it's a pretty flexible device, and in many ways is better than this guy because it is so flexible. So you could, in theory at least, you could load multiple custom firmwares on your Switch if you wanted to, and then switch between them using this button. So that's a pretty neat feature. And definitely one that's future-proof for future hacks or whatever they may need. Yeah, that's a pretty cool feature there. All right, I think that's pretty much all we need to do to cover this review. It's a pretty nice device and very flexible. And for those who want to go the open source route, like Atmosphere, for example, instead of SXOS, which is a proprietary route, this is definitely a very good device to take a look at. All right, thank you, and have a great evening, day, morning, whatever you want.